Hey
Recording.
everyone.
Go ahead.
Everyone, welcome. We have another one of our Meet Your Admin interviews, and today we are welcome here with the fantastic, the wonderful Miss Pierce. So yeah, let's just hop right in on this kind of chilly morning in my house at least. So, what brought you to Skyline initially?
Okay. So I generally say this, but I mean it. And I think sometimes people think I'm being corny, but I do believe that Skyline is the best high school in Oakland for a bunch of different reasons. One, we draw from all over Oakland. So I feel like Skyline is a kind of a little mini microcosm of Oakland. And if we can do amazing things at Skyline, I feel like it will actually benefit all of the city of Oakland, and I have some real love for the city of Oakland. Two, I think our staff is just really incredible, and we have sort of a rich history that brings about some interesting things, right? I think there's some huge legacies that come with Skyline, and then there's also some movements, right? That started from a history of really exclusion that has now turned into sort of the ultimate inclusion, which I love. And then finally, we're sort of a big school, right? We're a big school. We've got all the amazing things. We've got a great football team, right? We have all of the things a big school offers, but we have with our 4 pathways, we really do offer a pretty equitable pathway experience in a small school model. And so we kind of get the best of both worlds up there on the hill. Not to mention Skyline is gorgeous.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with basically everything. And when did you decide to work with youth?
Who I was so I went to Stanford and I had no intention of going into education originally. I was pre-med for about 3 years. And I took one course called Children's Citizenship and the Law. And I was really intrigued about how children's legal rights really kind of came about in schools and then how schools affect children's rights. And so that led to a couple more classes around sort of schools and what's education, how education is funded differently and how education looks different in different cities across the nation. And got really, really intrigued with it. And so I then kind of went into a co-term model where I got my teaching credential, my master's degree, and my undergraduate degree all in sort of in my student teaching, my sort of year of student teaching all in 1 year. So I stayed at Stanford for 1 more year. And that's when right after that, I went into West Oakland and became a teacher in West Oakland.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And then describe the best teacher you've ever had and why.
Oh, the best teacher I've ever had. Oh, that's a hard one.
Oh yeah.
Um, I've been really lucky to have some incredible teachers, but I had a few English teachers actually that I think sort of changed my like the trajectory of my life in a real way. One of them was my middle school English teacher, and she was like crazy about grammar. And you'd write an essay, you just like the whole page would be read, right? Like it'd be like edits and read, and but her kind of like sticklerness changed my writing at a really early age, and it made things a lot easier. And then my senior year of high school, I actually had no intention of going to Stanford. I thought it was kind of this rich school where everyone's sort of dad bought the library, right? Like I didn't understand really what it was. And she's the one. She said, no, with your grades and with everything else, I think you should apply. I applied, and then I visited the school, and I sort of fell in love with it. And so it was her kind of vision of working with both me and my family, and really kind of saying like, hey, consider this as an option. I think that you have a shot at it. And she, I mean, not to mention she just was a great teacher, but it was that kind of vision and love that she had to take that time out that really meant a lot to me.
And then who is a leader that you look up to?
I mean, it's hard. We're sort of smack in the middle of an election right now. And so it's hard not to think about all of the leaders that are around politics. And that's not necessarily where my mind normally goes. So forgive me for this answer, but I'm thinking of a lot of politicians right now, right? I'm thinking of like, President Obama and how much we miss him so much, and his leadership and his ability to do it with such grace and unity. I'm excited for this election. I'm not going to say, my political preference, although it'll probably be obvious with the people I'm mentioning, but I'm also, psyched to see like what Stacey Abrams is doing in Georgia. And it's just really incredible. So those are some of the leaders that I like right now that are just inspiring me on so many levels.
Yeah. Um, and then what is the worst job you've ever had?
Ooh, the worst job. I don't know if this was the worst. I'm trying to think, what is the worst job I've ever had? I was a waitress when I was in high school and then my first couple years of college. It wasn't the worst job I ever had, but I would say I came back after a year of college and I was thinking, oh, I'm so smart and I'm in college. And I came back to this waitressing job and just fumbled it. I was so bad. I was so bad. I was just out of practice and hadn't done it in a while. And it totally put me in my place, right? Like it humbled me in a real way. And obviously I got better over the next few weeks, but even my boss at the time was like, do you need to go back through training? Like what's going on with you? So yeah, so that was a really humbling experience, a little bit embarrassing too, but I got through it and got some money for the summer. So it was worth it.
Oh yeah. Where did you grow up and how does it compare to Oakland?
So I was actually born in Oakland, but I grew up in Livermore, which is in the East Bay. And Livermore, when I was there, was much different than it is now. Now it's, very suburban, very, there's a lot of wineries out there. So it's kind of like a little, for lack of better words, like shishi. um, when I was there and when I was growing up there and when my parents moved there, it was pretty much all sort of ranch land and, you know, there was only a couple supermarkets there and stuff like that. And then as I grew up, more and more developed, these huge complexes and so it was different. It was quite a bit different. I am I'm mixed, a mixed race, so I'm half white and half black. And in many of the classes growing up, I would be, one of three black people at the entire school kind of thing. And so it was very clear to me at a very early age that I was a person of color in a place that didn't have a lot of color. And then coming to Oakland, it was like, this beautiful, diverse city. And there were things I was always self-conscious about, and then got to Oakland and, it was just such an accepting city, such a loving city. And that I haven't been able to leave since. So there you go.
Yeah, definitely. What is home to you? Like thinking about like a home, like what makes you feel at home?
Hmm. I mean, my family, I have to say, like, I have a 7-year-old. He's amazing. But I also live about my mom now moved to Oakland as well. And so my mom is very close by. And my husband is as well. A lot of my family, my extended family too, my brothers and sisters are all in the Bay Area, the greater Bay Area too. And so it's just, that for me is home. It's where your family is. And I think we could relocate, but I do think there's something about home in the Bay Area. Um, that when I was younger, I think I could have adapted a little bit easier, in some other cities. But now I've come to really appreciate what the Bay Area has to offer in particular. It's a thoughtfulness. It's a it's like a value system around, intelligence and debate and diversity and values and fighting for your rights and like all of those things that I think at this point I'm kind of it would be hard for me to leave the Bay at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And what makes you smile?
This interview. um yeah. Um I don't know a lot of things. I'm kind of a silly person actually. So I like to smile a lot. I'm actually not a very serious person. So everything from my 7-year-old, jumping on me and trying to wrestle to like, seeing students doing amazing things just like warms my heart. We've been having a lot of students in our professional development this year. And it makes me every time students come, it makes me smile. I think it brings the whole feeling of the meeting to a whole nother level. Yeah, I laugh at a lot of things.
I appreciate that. I'm similar. Uh, and then shifting into more, I don't know, interesting topics. How spicy do you like to eat your chicken wings?
um, I like to mix it up. I'm not gonna lie. When Beyonce talked about the hot sauce in the bag, I was like, yes, somebody understands me.
Oh
So it
yeah.
just depends on my mood. I like to mix it up. But I definitely like spicy food. So yeah, you might catch me with a little hot sauce here and there.
And then what is the first thing you do in the morning?
First thing I do in the morning is wake up my son and get him going generally. Or turn on, to be honest, or turn on the news just to kind of orient myself with the world and see what's going on. And then I tend to go wake him up and get him going. Um, and then we kind of get going together.
Yeah. What is your most used emoji if you have one?
That's a good question. My most used emoji is, I mean, it's the red heart. It just is. It just is. But I will say, for a while there, it was the black heart and like the fist emoji because a lot of what I was doing this summer was, going to some protests and trying to check in with people, seeing how they were doing, making sure they were okay. This summer has been a lot. 2020 has been a lot. I don't even know why I'm saying the summer. 2020 has been a lot. So there's been a lot of just like love and checking in with people. And so yeah, it's been a lot of like heart emojis and also like stay strong.
And what is your favorite sandwich and why?
Favorite sandwich. Um, I like going to like the fancy deli sandwiches. Like, I mean, I can mess with a Subway sandwich too, but there is a sandwich called the Yachty at what is it called? It's like at the Grand Lake at that restaurant that I'm like in love with. And it has every single thing you could possibly think of. It's got like the sour, the sweet, the salty. It's got all of it. It's got all of it. And it's one of my favorites.
Oh, nice. What are your quarantine must-haves, like shows, food, activities?
Oh yeah. Um, like sweatpants.
Oh yeah,
It's
that too.
like I mean, yeah, no. And then like earrings, right? Because this is how I dress up for meetings now. I just put on a set of earrings, which is quite a bit different than being at school. Um, Also like I hate this, oh gosh, I hate admitting this, but like my phone I feel like has become a connection. I used to not actually really check my phone that often. I used to not be on social media that often, but it's feeling like a connection to the world right now that I kind of need. So I'm a little embarrassed to say I've been on it more than normal. Um, and then, family. Again, like we have had to find our own spaces in the house because we're all in the same place. And I think sometimes part of love is separation.
Oh yeah.
You gotta get that space. But for the most part, yeah, I think it's been really nice to have them around. My mom is quarantining with us as well. And so we get to spend a lot of really quality time.
Oh yeah, I can definitely agree with the space differences of your family. It is quite funny.
Hmm.
If the world went back to normal starting tonight, what would be like your first move? Like what would you like what do you miss, I guess, the most to some extent?
Oh my gosh, I would probably be like up at school at like 6 in the morning, standing on those steps right in front of the school, just standing there for like 3 hours, welcoming students back to school. Just like, and you guys would think I was so corny, and I would be fine with it. I
Oh
wouldn't
yeah.
even care. I'd be like, "Welcome, I missed you so much." And I'm sure some students would be like, "I don't even know you. Like, why are you so happy?" But yeah, I would be that would actually make my day. I probably wouldn't take a single meeting. I would just walk around school just like being there all day.
Oh yeah, I would probably be there with you. Who would you want to go with go to lunch with, dead or alive? I feel like this is kind of like a common question, but it's also really interesting.
Oh, I should have thought about this one. Okay. Who would I want to go to lunch with? That is a good question. Can we come back to that one?
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't know. Yeah, let me think about that one.
And then who would you love to see in concert perform?
Ooh, that's another good one. So the last concert I went to was actually Beyonce, Jay-Z.
Oh, wow.
And that was in San Jose, and that was awesome. And I would go like do that eight more times if I could. It was awesome. It feels weird to even think about concerts right now because nobody can go.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I actually wouldn't mind like a chiller vibe somewhere in like San Francisco in the Fillmore or something like that. Something a little bit chiller only because yeah, just kind of getting back in the swing of things.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The idea of being at a concert like kind of freaks me out now.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, ooh, too many people
Oh, yeah.
quite yet. Maybe like, a chill, like only like 50 people kind of thing. I would dig that right now.
What breed of dog do you think you are?
Well, I will tell you, so at my house right now, I have a Zion. He is our dog. He's 10 years old now, so 70 in dog years, and he is a half pit, half lab. And so he has like the pit, like wiggle the hips and the red nose, and but has like the long legs of a lab and like the energy, the excitement of a lab. And for me, I'm like, oh, this I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, they say that owners pick out dogs that remind them of themselves, which I'm not great about making that comparison, but I do feel like to a certain extent, that like fierceness when you got to be fierce, but that just like positive energy that just kind of keeps going and doesn't stop. I would hope, that would be like some traits that I would have.
Yeah. Um, if you had to pick one for like the rest of your life, would it be listening to podcasts or music?
Music,
Yeah.
music, I like hands down.
Yeah. I feel like some people question that one, but others are just like off the bat, they know what they want.
Yeah. I actually don't listen to a lot of podcasts, but music would feed my soul on so many levels. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Um, what is your guilty pleasure song if you have
Guilty pleasure song. Oh my gosh, I have so many. um Guilty pleasure song. Oh gosh, I don't want to admit this.
one?
Mm, all right. Okay, I'm gonna admit this, but I don't feel great about it. Remember, I grew up in Livermore, so like give me some slack here. It was a lot. So I refused to listen to country music my entire life. Like refused. Like would not listen to it. Only listened to like rap, R&B, like hip hop. That was kind of like that was my realm. And I don't know, somewhere in like my senior or junior year of high school, I someone introduced me to the song. It might have been earlier in high school actually. Earl Has to Die. It's a Dixie Chick song. And it's from a long time ago. So you guys probably don't know it. But now they're called the Chicks, right? Because they took the Dixie out, which I appreciate as well. But it like made me kind of like country because I thought it was hilarious and I love the message. And so every once in a while I will get a country song that is just like my jam and I love listening to it and it calms me down, but I won't listen like if I'm in Oakland, I won't like rev up the radio, right? Because I'm like no one else listens to it out here. But every once in a while, I don't listen that often, but sometimes I just need to like calm down and feel some emotions about, how the world is upset or dog died or, just like something silly
Yeah.
just to kind of calm my nerves a little bit. Oh God, I
Country
can't believe
music, I
I
think,
admitted
always
that.
has the best messages. They're just like some of them are really funny, but some of them are also they like hit home.
Yeah, they just sometimes you just need like some simple lyrics and some good chords and it just like so yeah. So that's my guilty genre, I should say. But it all started with, Earl had to die.
I'll have to listen to it now. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
I am actually not feeling well, so I did not have anything for breakfast except for some water, which is not very healthy. But I will, once I get off this interview, I might, try something. We'll see.
Yep. What is the strangest food that you've ever eaten?
I have eaten some strange food. So I really like to travel. And so when I was teaching every summer, I would go to a new country. So I would go to, one year I went to South Africa, one year I went to Japan, one year I went to Morocco, one year I went to just like all over, right? Like I would just find a new space. I've been to Ghana, I've been to Argentina and Chile. I've been to, just that was like what I would do, right? I would earn a bunch of money teaching, and then I would take the summer and travel and then come back and do the same thing over. This was like before, family and kids and responsibility and all that. So in those travels, right, you get introduced to some things, whether they're like, crickets or like like weird parts of the body that you were like you would eat, and then they would tell you what it was later. So that's always interesting. I'm not sure how much I want to share here, to be honest. I'm gonna hold some of that for myself. But yeah, no, like really crazy meats, like crocodile meats or like shark meat or like some stuff like that. We're gonna stick with that.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. What is your most prized possession?
My son. Yeah, I when I gave birth to my son, I realized, things don't actually matter that much. And yeah, if I had to think of like a thing and not a person, um, I mean, I think photos for me are really, I don't, I lost my brother about 11 years ago, and sometimes I will just see his photo, it'll come up, or I'll get a glimpse of it or something like that. And so I think for me, photos that's not like they're that important. They're just like a piece of paper, right? But they bring back sort of a flood of memories that mean a lot to me. So yeah.
Yeah. What makes you feel at peace?
I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. I'm a little bit of a like checkboxer person. So I feel at peace when things are done, right? Like when you've checked off all the boxes and I've taken care of what I need to take care of for work, I'm also going back to school to get my doctorate degree. So when my work is done, um, and sort of everything's done and everyone's safe and everyone's at home, that I'm like, oh, okay, I have completed everything I need to. Everyone that I love is safe and sound and around me. And then I'm just like, okay, I feel good.
I definitely relate to that.
Mm.
What is the best dish that you can cook?
I can cook. Ooh. I have some work to do in the kitchen, let's be honest. Um, but I do, since Thanksgiving is coming up, Thanksgiving is the holiday I tend to host. And I do think I make a pretty mean Thanksgiving dinner. So like a huge turkey, and then a lot of the fixins, right, that go with it. I'm pretty proud of, whether it's like deviled eggs or sweet potatoes or the pies that go with all the afterwards. I think I do pretty good with Thanksgiving dinner after years of practice and years of messing up.
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive feast to put on. Uh, if you were immortal, which age would you stop aging at?
22. 22. Yep. I would not. Oh my gosh. If I could go back to 20, if I could do 22, okay, here's why. First of all, you're old enough, you have all of your rights, so you don't have to worry about like, if only I was this much older, right? You're there. You kind of have the independence. College for me was so much fun. Not just because of what you're exposed to, but just the like the learning you're exposed to. At that point, you kind of know who you are as a college student too. So you're sort of over the like, am I good enough? I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. I don't know if I can do, you're kind of over that. At that point, you're like, okay, graduation, I can see, but I'm not ready to leave yet because I finally figured out how to do this. And you just have a lot of fun and you have all of this energy and very little responsibility, and your bills haven't hit yet, right? Because you don't have to worry about the college bills until you graduate. Oftentimes. So yeah, I could do 22 for a long time.
Oh, yeah. If you had a personal assistant, what would they do?
They would probably schedule me better, right? So like they would keep me like, you remember how I said like check boxes are important. So they would be like the person who made sure like my daily calendar was on point, that I didn't get caught up. I like to get caught up in conversations with people, and it's hard for me to stop. And so they would be the one to be like, all right, you got to move on to your next thing. And I think they would make me way more efficient. So yeah, if they could just like manage my calendar and kind of be almost like a coach, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, you need to work out too. Like you forgot to work out today. So let's go.
Mhm.
I feel like I would get a lot more done if I had, and not necessarily like a life coach, but like just someone to like yell at me when I need to be yelled at, and keep me on track, make me, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Um, do you stan any celebrities? And if you don't know what that means, I can try to explain it.
Do I what?
Stan, it's like, for example, for myself, it's like I've always been a One Direction stan since like this fifth grade when they came out. Like I've just followed them the entire time, and I still follow them. So like I think I'm a pretty strong One Direction stan. Like, do you have
Got it.
any other like anything?
Any celebrity. So I will say it's interesting because I have an interesting relationship with like celebrities in general. My brother, one of my brother-in-law, really, but my brother, when I was growing up, my brothers and sisters are older than I am. And so he played for the Rams for 9 years and the Raiders for 4 years. And so we were always at the games, we were always doing these things. And I remember sometimes after games, there'd be these fans that would kind of be like, know all about him, know his family, know his two kids, and all of these things. And it would freak me out on like a weird level, right? And so I think just growing up around that, I kind of got this sense of like, oh, celebrities aren't that special. They're just like, they're just like us. That being said, that doesn't mean that there's not a few people I'd be like, ooh, I would love to like hang out with this person, or, like you said earlier, like have lunch with them. But I don't think I've like really like gotten like super intense about any one group, really. I think I go through phases, if anything, right? Like there'll be phases in my life where I'm like, oh, this
Oh, yeah.
person is feeding me right now. And then, next month. It's one of the reasons I don't have any tattoos, actually, because I feel like I change so frequently that I can't really like, there's nothing that I would want there that I feel like 10 years later, I would still want. Right.
Definitely.
But growing up, I had a fair share of like piercings and stuff, because I was like, oh, you could take those out and it's not a big deal. So like, the ear bars and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, one day I'll be a professional. I can take those out and it'll be fine.
Definitely. What is your opinion on modern art, if you have one?
Modern art. I mean, I think that art in general kind of allows us a window into, we did a professional development. Actually, Eleanor came back she's a Skyline alum. She came back and did a PD with us. And she said, art interrupts inertia, right? So like, I think that quote is stuck with me ever since, because it's so true. It's like the ability to just kind of take what's going on in the world and make sense of it in a way that isn't always logical, right? And that's okay. And so for me, in terms of like modern art, I'm not sure I'm like a huge, like if we look at like contemporary art pieces and things like that, I'm not necessarily like a collector in my house or anything.
Yeah.
But I would say that what art does for me is it kind of feeds that. I'm a very like rational, that's part of my perfectionism. I think like this needs to be set up. And so art kind of allows me a window into not doing that sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I have a few like art pieces up that just kind of speak to me, but I don't think they're special, right? They just, for whatever reason,
Yeah,
they speak to me.
definitely. That's really cool. What would you do if aliens came to Earth?
uh, I'd make sure they came in peace, hopefully. I'd have some questions. Yeah, I feel like I would be really curious to know, like, but yeah, I don't like, make friends, right? Like, like
Why not?
see if they got some special powers. See what we can
Mhm.
work out.
Definitely. What is your favorite vacation spot, and where would you want to go?
So my favorite vacation spot is like anywhere near probably a beach, right? Like I really love to travel anyway, so I could probably go anywhere and that would be a great vacation spot. But I do like my beaches.
Yeah.
So I don't have a favorite one. I
Mhm.
like visiting new places. But I will say like Costa Rica probably out of all the places I visited. I felt really, really at home with. And actually I think I was around probably 22 when I visited there. And at some point I wasn't sure if I was going to come back. So
Oh wow.
but I did. I did. But it was beautiful.
Yeah. And if you want to, we can circle back to who you'd like to go to lunch with.
Oh yeah. Okay. Who would I want to go to lunch with? Uh, You know, I think it's just because we've been under quarantine for so long. I mentioned my brother earlier and he's been on my mind lately. I wouldn't mind having just like one more lunch with him. I think we would be cracking up. I'm pretty sure he'd be making fun of like everyone in our family. It would be hilarious. Like he would be making all kinds of I mean the politics of right now, like he had a sense of humor that would just like I mean, you would laugh, but you'd also feel bad that you were laughing because he was making fun of probably someone, right? Or doing something
Yeah.
wrong. He just had that kind of infectious personality. And I think right now it would feel really good just to kind of laugh for a really extended long lunch.
Oh yeah. We all need a good laugh. Uh,
Yeah.
well, that wraps up all of my questions. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I just thank you for having me. Yeah, this has been fun. Thank you.
Oh yeah, you're so very welcome. Well, thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, thanks.